After outlining the 6 perspectives of psychology, let me give you one example to illustrate how psychologists from different perspectives think. It's a story about the frontal lobe. If you look at our evolutionary line, our brain volume have increased significantly.
The gorilla and the chimpanzee diverged around the same time, around 5 to 8 million years ago.
Genetic studies show that primates diverged from other mammals about 85 million years ago, and the earliest fossils appear around 55 million years ago. The earliest documented members of the genus Homo are Homo habilis, which evolved around 2.3 million years ago, the earliest species for which there is positive evidence of the use of stone tools. The brains of these early humans were about the same size of that of a chimpanzee. During the next million years, a process of encephalization began, and with the arrival of Homo erectus in the fossil record, cranial capacity has doubled to 850 milliliters. Nowadays, a modern human called Homo sapiens has a brain volume that is close to 1500 milliliters, 3 times the size of an early human. If you compare the brain of a modern human to its very early fossil record, what has gained in brain volume are largely what we call the association area. So what is the function of the association area? Now let us compare the brain area of different species. In this illustration, we can see the comparison of brain areas of rats, cats, chimpanzees, and humans. What is outlined in red and yellow are the primary motor area and its corresponding sensory area. These are related to coordinating movements, and these has remained largely unchanged throughout the species. However, the rest of the brain has increased significantly, and they are called the association area. And it's precisely this area that has tripled in size in humans. I want to draw your special attention to the frontal lobe, which is an area that has evolved much later in the human species. This is an area that is responsible for decision making, executive functioning, and treating moral dilemmas. This is also the area that is concerned with moderating social behavior. I would like to show you an example that's related to the function of our frontal lobe. This example has its developmental perspective taste. In 1972, a group of psychologists headed by Dr. Walter Mischel have launched a longitudinal study. At the start of the study, they did an interesting experiment, which they called the marshmallow experiment. In this experiment, 4 to 6-year-old kids are called into the laboratory, and they were faced with a dilemma. They were presented with a delicious marshmallow. They were told that if they could resist the marshmallow for 15 minutes, they would later get another marshmallow as a reward. So after giving the marshmallow to the little kid, the psychologists have hidden behind the one-way mirror and observed the actions of the kids inside the room, playing with the marshmallow. After observing the behavior of over 1,000 children in the same experiment, the psychologists have found that there are individual differences among children. About 1/3 of the children could successfully resist the temptation of not eating the marshmallow and getting another one, even though the wait has not been easy. 2/3 of the kids failed to do so, and within the 15 minutes, they have consumed the marshmallow in front of them, and they didn't get the second one. So the study didn't end just here. The longitudinal study has this immense impact of this research 15 years later. In a follow-up study, these psychologists have followed the behavior of all these children participated in the marshmallow experiment when they reached the age of 18 and onwards. They found that the 1/3 of the kids who actually resist the marshmallow became much more successful in life. Most of them went to good universities, they had good grades, and they have very healthy relationships. The rest of the children, 2/3 of them, who failed to resist the marshmallow, actually somewhat also failed in life. Compared with those kids who managed to resist the marshmallow, these kids often dropped out of school and also had bad relationships. They also ended up a lower social class than those who resisted. If you compare the SAT scores of these two groups of children when they come to the age of taking the examination, the difference is as large as 100 out of 800. This study has brought a great impact on people's understanding of the function of frontal lobe. It is precisely the function of frontal lobe that's been developed during the critical years of 4 to 6 years. The individual differences among people who could and could not resist the marshmallow can have many, many reasons. Some of them are biological, some of them are developmental, some of them are cognitive, some of them are actually social cultural. Recently, a Californian psychologist called David Walsh has written a book that's related to the marshmallow experiment. It is called Say Yes to No. It's a book for parents to improve their parenting skill in coaching their kids to help them learn the essential skill of delaying gratification. They found the ability to delay gratification in early life has a great impact on their later success in life. The marshmallow experiment has been replicated many times throughout the world and have very similar findings. Children between 4 to 6 years old are often divided into two groups. 1/3 of the kids can resist the marshmallow, and 2/3 of them couldn't. And later in life, their trajectories also diverge. So some psychologists have been working with, in particular, the Korean Educational Bureau to actually have the marshmallow experiment as a case study. So all through Korea, now kids 4 to 6 years are learning the marshmallow experiment and also learning to resist the marshmallow in front of them for 15 minutes as actual rigid practice. Tracing back to the evolutionary progress, what we have gained in volume in our brain have largely contributed to the development of our frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is essential for resisting temptation, self-control, and problem solving. The marshmallow experiment have demonstrated from the developmental perspective that there's a critical period in our early life that help us gain self-control. From another example, through the case of Viennese gauge, which we will introduce in the next chapter, we'll actually learn precisely the relationship of our frontal lobe and its functioning of self-control. There are other perspectives we can take on the study of the frontal lobe. For example, the social cultural perspective. And through learning and coaching, we can actually improve one's self-control. And hopefully, the earlier we gained this ability, the more benefit it will give us in our later life.